Hi everyone, welcome to Inspiring Chaos. If you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Eunice. I'm the host and founder of this amazing story community, and welcome to another episode. Welcome to the second episode with a guest here in season 4, even though it is the fourth episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and for staying along for this new adventure and new season with extraordinary and inspiring guests. So for this Sunday, I'm very excited to have the amazing, the extraordinary, the inspiring, the incredible. Honestly, there's literally no words that could describe her because she's absolutely amazing. We have Angelica. Angelica is an amazing woman who has truly impacted my life and has truly educated me in regards of what it truly means to be a dreamer and a DACA recipient. And as one myself, I think it is something that we need to talk about more. So when I bumped into her page as a undocumented Latina in higher education, I knew I wanted to interview her, and I knew I wanted all of you guys to hear her inspiring story because I know that she has a story that will impact many people, and I wanted her to share her journey with all of us on here. She does give her social media at the end, so stay tuned for the whole thing and follow her. And there's amazing things happening in her life as well that she talked to me about, not here in the podcast, but outside the podcast. And I just can't wait to see it all happen because I know she absolutely going to do extraordinary things in life, and I just can't wait to share and to tell you guys all about it. But before that, if you'd like to follow us as well, you should do so at Inspiring Chaos with Eunice on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. And also, if you'd like to check out our website, it is www.inspiringchaoswithyunus.com, and you can check out all the stuff there. If you like to form part of the community and all that stuff, you can check out our website. And thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. Thank you so much for being here. And now let's go on hearing Angelica's inspiring story of success.
For today's guest, we have Angelica Perez Martinez. She recently graduated from California State University, receiving her master's degree in counseling with a specialization in schools counseling and has a PPS credential. She recently created a program at a community college supporting undocumented students and students of mixed status families, where she's currently coordinating the program, hoping it continues to grow. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Thank you for being here. So I want to kind of start off with you talking about your social media platform, Instagram, because I actually met you through that. And I want to thank you so much for creating a platform where undocumented students like myself can connect with other people. And importantly, you inform us with a lot of things. So I wanted to ask, why did you start a page like that?
Yeah, I started the page. First of all, it's so great to meet you. Thank you for having me. Great honor.
Thank you.
I started the page because I was a graduate student at the time, and because of the presidency at that time, and
Mm,
everything was happening, and navigating grad school, and realizing that I had like no one close to me in like going through the same struggle of being a student, of navigating that. Um, as a first gen and everything, and plus also having to deal with these other things like, well, am I able to finish grad school? Will I be able to continue living here? What's gonna happen? Like all this uncertainty, right? So I was like, well, there's no well, from my understanding, I was the only undocumented person in my cohort.
mm,
I don't know if there's more, but not everyone feels
yeah.
comfortable disclosing their status. But from my understanding, like I felt alone. So
Mhm.
creating that social media platform provided that sense of community and be like, whoa, like there are people who are doing it. There are people who have done it. Like, and there are people who are thinking of doing it, right? So I'm just like, okay, let me build this little Instagram thing and see what happens. And yeah, people started saying, oh, like, like, oh, like I can relate to you. I can like I'm also doing this. And I'm like, okay. There was that sense of like security, because like we're so like constantly living in that sense of uncertainty, but I found that sense of security and that comfort and that community with the platform. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're a counselor, you work in education. Do you think people in education need to be more educated in what it means to be undocumented?
I honestly do think so. And sometimes even though like, I'm like, I'm undocumented, but even I don't know a lot of
Uh,
things, right?
mhm,
I just know my story.
mhm.
And I know the story probably of my family and my close friends. But being undocumented doesn't mean that we're all the same. And that's something that I've learned a lot, like as a professional, or just building this community and being like, wow, like just because we're undocumented, we're not the same people. Stories are way different. Like our struggles are different. But working in education now and working with undocumented students and going to these trainings and meetings, and I'm just like, there is so much more that can be done. There's so much more, and I think especially now, right? Because a lot of the students that are going to college, they don't have the opportunity, right? The privilege to apply for DACA, to have a social security number to work. And so it's a whole different thing. Like we are not we. I'm still undocumented. Oh, manifesting.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just associate being undocumented with having like a work permit, being DACA recipient. And it's like, no, like you have to understand that there's so much more to unlearn and learn at the same time.
Yeah. What is something you think the schools need to know or need to do to help students, undocumented students, reach their educational goals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. All these questions, barely question number two, but still really good. I think something super important is to provide opportunities for students that don't have a social security number, right? Because there's just so much that is towards students that have a social security number, and it's like, though that's not what undocumented means, or that's not what undocumented is. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. But I think providing more opportunities more opportunities that are more inclusive, right? But also just being more well informed of how they can help in whatever way that can be helped, and not just have one person or just one center. You go here to this. Oh, this is the undocumented specialist. Somebody said that last time. Where they're like, oh, this is the undocumented support specialist, because that's my title.
Yeah.
Like, why you outing me?
Yeah.
Why you outing my status? But no, that's a whole different thing. But it's just not just to have like a one person be the expert. I'm like, it's good to have an expert, but also it's good to inform as many people.
Yeah. Be inclusive and
There
make
you go.
people
Yes.
feel like welcome and not like I feel left out because I go to someone specifically.
Yes.
What made you decide to get a master's degree? Because you have a master's degree in counseling.
Yes. It's just that, going to school, being lost, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like older and done with grad school, and when I look at it, it's like, well, everything fell into place. Being lost, being told, oh, you can only go to community college, and it's like the lack of knowledge as well, lack of like keeping up to date with what's going on, to support the students that you currently have, and then just not knowing what to do, just like, but throughout the way, like, one of my counselors at a community college, I don't know their name, but I remember they were just like, well, when are you gonna leave? Because I was there for 4 years, but it was that whole fear of doing something new, of moving out of town, of trying to like, of change.
Yeah.
That fear of change. But without realizing it, I was taking a lot of psychology, sociology courses, and because I'm like, dude, like I'm a chismosa. Like I love people. I love to get to know people, and like why are you like that? Why am I like this? But yeah, so like everything just like interested me, and the counselor was like, you can actually transfer with a sociology degree. And I was like, okay, let's just go for it. And so I just went along, and I went to, and this is a story that I share with some people too, because I really wanted to go to Sac State, right? That was like my dream school, Sac State. But when I applied to transfer, they only had 3 schools in mind. And then the counselor was like, well, you get a fee waiver, you can choose 4. And I was looking at the map and I was like, let's just choose this one, like a random one. And I chose Cal State LA. And then I got accepted to all 4 schools, but stuff that was happening around the time, I was like, you know what? I want a fresh new start where I don't know anybody. Let's just go for it. So I moved to LA and I chose Cal State LA, like that, my last option. And it was the best decision ever, because when I started Cal State, like, I was taking classes in it's like sociology classes, but it was very specific into, let's figure out what do you really want to do with this degree, and every like assignment, every project, everything was leaning more towards education. And undocumented communities and like farm workers, because I'm like, that's my community. That's my safe space. I can talk about this, right? I can do research about this. But more education, because I was like, I want to help people. I want to like help people. But then the question was like, then what? Like, what are you gonna do? So broad. So I started getting not internships, like more jobs, like part-time jobs, and it was more into education. I'm like, okay, I want to work with students. I want to help people go to school. And I really liked advising, like just helping them apply to college, sitting with parents and the students, and just explaining what the process was and sharing my story too, and be like, it's okay, like, oh wow, we have so much in common and I can help you. Because I did it, then maybe it will give you some hope to do. And it was towards my graduation time, like when grad school applications opened up, and I was like, oh, what should I do? And I have a brother who went to, he's gonna say that I'm copying everything he does, but it's not true. But he was doing counseling, grad school, and I was like, okay, maybe I can do that too. And so he was like, you should do school specialization. It's more broad. You have a PPS credential where you can work in K through 12, but you can also do higher ed if you would like to with that same degree, So I was like, okay, let's do it. So I just went for it last minute. I applied, and thankfully, I did get accepted into Sac State. So I was like, let's move to Sacramento, and yeah, that was
Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned before, but were you nervous when you applied and you saw that you were in the master's program?
I self-sabotage myself a lot. And I clearly remember doing that, because I was like, oh no, I'm very depressed. I'm very this and that. Like, it's very stressful, because I waited last minute. I really last minute for Sac State. I did everything last minute. I reached out to professors because I was like, nobody remembers me. I was a quiet, shy person in class. Nobody talks to like do they expect me to submit 3 letters of recommendation when I'm pretty sure they don't remember me, right? So it was like that pride in me as well, like my pride to be like asking somebody for like, is it do you say it in English, like favor? Un favor?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So like asking somebody for help. And that was the biggest thing. I hated asking people for help because I'm like, maybe that's gonna show that sign of like weakness. I'm like, no, because I felt like, oh, life was hard enough to be undocumented, to go through the struggles, and now they're gonna be like, oh, you're always asking for help. You're always asking for help. So I was like, I can't do that. But I was like, you know what? Let me just do it. And for Sac State, I sat down. I wrote my statement letter, whatever it's called. Yeah, I wrote it. I sent it out like without like proofreading. I'm just like, let's go for it. Like, it is what it is. But again, it was that part of me that was self-sabotaging myself because I could have done it way before. But I kept pushing it off. No, maybe not. Maybe yes. But low key, I was just like, I don't want to do anything. I'm like, what if I get rejected? What if I get rejected? And it was because I was like the good student and the smart student, whatever. And so that feeling of possibly getting rejected too was something that I didn't want to go through. And I applied to 2 other schools, and one was really tough because I went to an interview. I got called for like a interview, and it was the worst interview ever. It was, that point when you're in class and then like a teacher walks by, come on now, everyone, pay attention. Like, that's how it felt. So I
Yeah.
walked out and I was like, this school is not for me. I'm not gonna get in. And then the other school, I got rejected right away. And I was like, okay, my last hope is Sac State. And
Mm.
then I ended up getting waitlisted. And I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna get rejected because I submitted everything so fast and like there's no,
Yeah.
there's no chance I'm gonna get in. And so I started my life. I was like, I'm gonna stay in LA. I'm gonna start working with students and it is what it is. I'll try next year. And so I kept telling myself, see, you were right. Like you shouldn't just,
Mm.
you know, but
Mhm.
that thing is like you should have just left it how it is. Like you just wasted time and that embarrassment of having to go back again and ask for letters of recommendation. Now who are you gonna ask? Those same people that was so hard to find, or do you go look for someone else? So that was very tough. But during the summer, sorry, I talk a lot. So let
It's
me
okay.
know.
It's okay.
But during the summer, I got an email saying congratulations, you got in, and I was like, oh, I was like, I have a month to do everything, to pack up and get everything. So I went to my mom and I was like, I got accepted, but I don't know what to do. And so she asked me, she was like, so when are you gonna go pick up your stuff? And I'm like, okay, cool, so, because her reasoning was that even if I say no to grad school because I got like accepted like really really late,
Mhm.
even if I say no, like a whole year is gonna go by anyways. She was like, so do you want to like spend that year in school or spend that year without school and having to go through the whole process again? And so I was like, yeah, you're right. So I went to school. So I moved and started school, and it was. Sometimes I say no, it's not good, but honestly, the truth is, it was worth it. It was very
Mhm.
much worth it.
You have an AA in sociology, a
Mhm.
BA in sociology, an S in counseling with a specialization in school counseling. You have a PPS credential. Having a master's degree is very different from doing an undergrad. What are some differences you have seen or you saw while doing that?
I think it's the growth,
Mm.
not just professionally, academically. I think it's a growth personally.
Mm.
That was the biggest difference. If you were to ask me all the theories, I'm so sorry, professors, I do not remember. I don't remember. But I think it's the growth
Mm.
within. That's the biggest difference, and that's why I highly encourage it. I'm like, just do it if you can, right? If you
Mhm.
have the opportunity to, because in grad school, I'm not grad school, in undergrad, it was me still trying to figure it out. It's trying to be like, well, it's like having to navigate like moving from a small town to a big city, um, being alone, moving away from family, trying to learn what I like as an adult now, as an independent adult now. So it was more towards that and be like, man, I'm broke. I'm broke. I'm trying to pay for school. I don't get a lot of financial aid. Like, how am I going to do it? How am I going to survive? I think for me, undergrad, it was more survival,
Mm.
just trying to survive and just see what happens. Um, and in grad school, I think it was still that I was still broke, but more mature. No, it was more of being vulnerable. That's where I learned to be very vulnerable with myself and just being like, okay, you know what? I can't do this. It's okay to cry. Like it's okay to
Mhm.
ask for help. It's okay to just tell people I am struggling because this is tough. That's why not a lot of people go to grad school,
Mhm.
right? Because they really, really challenge you. And like the program that I was in, it was very. Hopefully, they're not watching. They won't be, but the program was very much challenge. Yeah, it was very challenging because the first semester, the first class, like this is TMI, and I'm sorry, you can cut this out.
No.
But my very first class, I went straight to the bathroom when there was a break, and I was like, I'm not gonna get out. My body's not letting me get out. Like it was tough, right? They said this is a
Mhm.
pass or no pass class, whatever.
Yeah.
You have to go and show us your counseling skills. And I went in thinking, man, I want to be a school counselor and help students. But in my head, it was more of like, let me change their schedule. let me let me just like add this class and that class. But no, the whole mental health part terrified me because I was like, maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they just accepted me because they had no other option. Maybe I'm not meant to be here. And I was going through a lot at that time because of my financial, since they accepted me very late, they told me that I didn't get financial aid. And I'm like, I just moved to a new city. How am I gonna pay for school? I'm starting school, and now you're telling me that I need to get a loan, and it's as an undocumented student, how can I get a loan? And so I was just like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm just gonna go with my mom, and it was a lot, right? And then going into class and hearing that professor say, a B, like you can't get less than a B in grad school, and I was like, I thought C's get degrees. Very like terrifying, but sorry, I feel like I'm yelling, but it was very terrifying, and I just had to like, I think I got to a point where during the pandemic, right? Because I was in grad school during the pandemic. So my first semester, I think, or second semester, I was in person, and then I went to like online, and because of the pandemic and what happened during the pandemic and my family and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, wow, life is very short, and I'm like, I need to just go for it. I was like, because life is not guaranteed. And I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? Somebody can tell me no. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I think that really helped me kind of ground myself and just be okay with asking for help. And once I accepted that, and once I allowed people to help me and to be vulnerable and to help myself grow as well, I think it really challenged me, and I grew a lot as a counseling student, but also individually in the decisions that I made in life and what I wanted to do after. Yeah, I'll stop there.
I mean, like you mentioned, life, school, is very challenging, and sometimes you do get dismotivated sometimes. But who inspires you to continue working, to continue fighting for what you want?
Really good question. A lot of people. There's a list of people. Obviously my family, right? Because I've always wanted to make my family proud, and I know that they're very proud. And so I was like, I'm doing this not just for myself, for my family, and all this stuff like that. And there's, siblings. Well, that includes family. And then BTS. I'm gonna talk about my BTS next. I love BTS, and it was during the pandemic, right? When I was going through all of this, and I got COVID, my family got COVID, and it was during the presidency thing, and I'm just like, I might get deported, I might die. Like, what's worse? And I'm like, and my professor wants me to turn this assignment in when I have nobody else to talk to about it, right? And like I remember we had a class, and they just made a quick little statement, like, if you need to talk to somebody, whatever. And I'm just like, you just don't get it. I'm like, my life is not worth just 5 minutes of your class time. I'm like, and to me, it seemed a little bit like fake because I'm like, wow, this whole program, right, where now, because it's happening in the news, you're just giving us 5 minutes, just a sentence. But after that, maybe tomorrow, next week, you're not even gonna like acknowledge that you have undocumented students in your program, that you have undocumented professionals, right? And to me, it was a lot. So I felt very alone, very like stuff going on. I started going to therapy, and that's where I got very like attached to BTS because of their message, and especially like the leader, Mr. Kim Namjoon. The powerful of like loving yourself and accepting yourself and just never giving up. And I think that message really, really stuck with me. And seeing like their life story, what they went through, and how far they've come, and I'm just like, wow, there is hope, right? And then listening to their music, and I'm like, there's so much hope in life, that you can instill that hope into somebody that you don't know by just sharing and being vulnerable with yourself. And then that helped me with my page, and it helped me with like life in general. And so shout out to BTS.
Yes, and I mean, you too, you have inspired millions, including myself.
Oh,
Yes, you have. If you could work in a different job, any job you wanted, in any field you wanted, what would that be?
tech. That's where
Really?
the money is at.
Yeah. True though. Facts. True.
Yes, I think I would work in yeah, I was thinking about that because like on TikTok you get all kinds of
Oh
like
yeah.
videos. It
Yeah.
was like you can work from home and you can make a lot of money. And I was like, oh my God, tech. If not tech, I I was thinking about that this morning. If I had papers, if I had papers, I would go and travel around the world to help.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I
yeah.
just I think it would still involve people though.
Yeah.
Because I know tech, it could still be done now. I can easily be like, let me go get another degree.
Yeah.
It's stuff that you can learn, but I don't know if my heart will be in it like
Mhm.
100% because I really like that people interaction. So maybe the second one.
um, what advice would you give anyone who's interested in getting a master's degree?
Do your research.
Mm,
Number one advice. Do your research. Um, and it's okay if all of your answers are not answered, all of your questions are not answered.
mm.
Let me say that again. Do your research, and it's okay if not all of your questions are answered, because that's the whole point, I think. You go
Mhm.
in with lots of questions and just do it. If you don't like it, so what? Just drop out. It's like just go
Yeah.
for it. Just go for it because I had so many questions and I feel like my questions weren't answered in those 3 years, right? But you learn a lot, and it's okay if you go in thinking that that's what you want to do, and then end the program being like that's not what I want to do, because it's not just a title of like that, like a counseling degree, right? Because right now
Mhm.
I'm not a counselor.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to be a counselor eventually, but I'm not using that counseling degree to be a counselor at all. But what I realized is that in my job, it has helped me a lot. How I'm talking to students, how I'm working with people, and how I'm just creating this like foundation of this program or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, all the skills are there. The skills and knowledge you're taking it with you where in anything that you do afterwards. Just yeah, do your research though.
What advice would you give any undocumented students who want to go into higher education?
This one is a hard question because I understand my privilege of being
Mm,
undocumented,
mhm,
because I can just be like, yeah, go for it. Like there's no support, there's this and that. But then I'm like, I don't know what it is, like what it feels like, or yeah, like what it feels like, or the struggles of being undocumented and not being able to financially support yourself
mm.
legally to work.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can say whatever I can say, but I'm not sure if it will apply to all undocumented students.
Mhm,
But just to stay hopeful. I think
mhm.
that's the biggest thing. Stay hopeful, do it because you are investing in yourself and you're investing in that knowledge that you're going to get. Knowledge and experience, because like my mom said, right? You can take that anywhere you go.
Mhm.
Because you have that. And it's true because my diploma got here like months after. Nobody has asked me to see my diploma.
Yeah. Um, what attract? Because you told me that, and it also said it in the intro, you created your program at a community college. What attracted you to start that?
Working with students with undocumented students to begin with, because in sorry, like my lighting is changing.
It's okay.
Trying to be aesthetic here, it's not working. What attracted me to the program is because again, right, like the whole grad school experience,
Mm,
I knew counseling and I wanted to go in and work with students. But during the program, it was like, ooh, do I really want to do this?
mm,
Right. And I'm just like, let me use the student card. I'm a student right now. Let me get my hands on as many different levels of what it means to work with students as possible. Because in my program we have to do like internships and stuff like that, right? So I was like, it's okay to work part-time. It's okay to just because it's temporary. It's temporary. That was my mentality going in. It could be 3 years, but to me, it was temporary, right? So let me use that. And so I worked with elementary school students as a teacher assistant. I to start gaining experience working with little ones.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And then I was an intern, like a counseling intern with elementary school students, and I'm like, my heart can't take that. I was like, I can't take listening to everything you're going through, and I just can't. So I was like, okay, that's a no for me, right? I was an intern at a middle school with middle school students, and I'm like, okay, my heart can take this, but do I want to take this? So that was a little bit different. And I'm like, maybe I do, maybe I don't. And throughout that, I was working with high school students, and I loved helping them apply to college and doing all of that, having that one-on-one or the group or that presentation. So I was like, okay, I really like this. But do I want to be a school counselor though? Do I want to see all of this? And then I was like, well, I'm missing adults. I'm missing the college part, the higher ed part. I don't have any experience, so I got a second job, and I was like, dude, let me just get in. Let me just test it out and see if I like it or not, and start gaining experience, like, so I can leave the program and I can start looking for a job and have more on my resume, have more experience as much as I can. So during my program, like my last semester, it was the hardest ever because I had two jobs. I had an internship, a full-time student, trying to balance life, right? But I was like, it's all short term. It's temporary. It's temporary, and yeah. And so I was like, hopefully this helps make my decision, and it did. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, it was like the self-sabotage thing, but I realized that I was doing it again, but I was doing it because my heart was more towards like higher ed in a way. And so like I saw my friends like applying to counseling K through 12, and I was just like, oh, I forgot to do it. I like, all this kind of thing, but deep down I was like, maybe I just want that, higher ed position, which it really did. And when I applied to two higher ed positions doing the same work. And thankfully, I got offered the positions, and I was like, okay, now it's great, right? One, the program was already there. It was just having to help grow the program. The other one, there's no program, so it would mean to develop a program. And I'm like, I have no experience in doing like a program development, but it'd be great, right? So in my head, I was like, in 5 years, what do I want to say when somebody asks me, what have you been doing in the last 5 years? I think this will be great, right? And it will help me grow a lot professionally. And maybe I'll like it. If I don't like it, cool, that's it. Like, next, let's try something. So that really helped me, and like the support and stuff like that. So yeah, it's getting developed.
Yeah. So I like to end the episode with asking you a very important question. What would you tell your younger self? Like, what advice or what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, I'm gonna start crying. I would tell my younger self that it's okay. That's it.
That's it.
Mhm.
I would love if you can share your social media with all of us.
Yes. So let's see if I can pronounce it correctly.
Yes.
Because I just made it just to make it, and then somebody was like, "How do you pronounce it?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So I have an Instagram. It's at la undocu_consejera.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun talking to you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. Thank you for listening to Angelica's inspiring story of success. Go follow her right now because she absolutely deserves it. And I can't wait to share her journey with you guys even more because there's amazing things happening in her life and I just can't wait. But before that, or before anything that happens, go follow her because I want you guys to be the first to know about amazing things that are happening. And yeah, also follow us if you'd like to. And I hope you have an amazing Sunday. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you see how inspiring and incredible you are, and talk to you all on Wednesday. Bye.